Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Here in this video, we will go over all of your Tesla stock breaking news, and there's a lot of it. I'm surprised the stock is down today, which leads me to believe it's not a Tesla issue. Tesla's down about 1%. I think what's happening today, why Tesla is down, is a broader markets issue. It looks almost certain that the government is going to shut down. And while that's typically not a negative catalyst for stocks, it actually tends to be a positive catalyst for stocks historically. It does raise the uncertainty because we're not going to get the jobs report on Friday if the government shut down. We're not going to get any BLS data if the government is shut down. We did get the JOLTS job openings today. They came in a little bit higher than expected. That makes people maybe a little bit more nervous for how that jobs report could look. So when you raise the uncertainty, typically that lowers stocks. Now, we will see ultimately what happens. The government will shut down tonight at midnight unless there is a last minute deal done. So we'll talk about all of this in today's episode. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and check out that link down below in the description of this video. If shit hits the fan, we're gonna be hedging that. We're gonna be protecting portfolios. But what we do is go out and find small cap AI stocks before Wall Street does. We want to be early to these opportunities. And, well, we have a good track record of doing so. So check it out if you'd like to down below in the description of today's episode. But with that said, let's get into all of your Tesla stock breaking news. First things first. In the news today, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police have started to receive their new fleet of 10 Tesla Cybertrucks upfitted by Upfit Tesla to patrol the streets. Sheriff Kevin McHale says, quote, "We want these things because the cops inside will be safe no matter what. These stop bullets. They're also a tremendous recruitment tool for us. All 10 Cybertrucks were donated by billionaire Ben Horowitz. No taxpayer money was used." And there is only about, well, at the time this video is going to be published, 8 hours or so, that the federal $7,500 tax credit will be available if you place an order. So if you are somebody that wants a Tesla and you want to take advantage of that, you have 8 hours to make that decision and put down, I would put down at least a couple $100 just to, make sure you're all good to go. Big news today, Canaccord Genuity analyst George Giannis has increased his Tesla price target to $490 per share from $333 per share with a buy rating. His reasons, quote, "Raising deliveries. In our note, we discussed the data we pull from 30 countries that led us to increase our delivery estimates. After several quarters of weakening momentum, this is a positive break in trend. New models. Quote, "Next on the EV side, we expect more new models soon as promised by management. These should help global sales momentum and potentially help alleviate any post Q3 cliff in the US after EV tax credits go away, and these new vehicles should be interesting." Energy storage. In energy storage, we expect an improvement in momentum. We, the world, need more power, and we need more storage for both utilities and data centers. Hyperscaler data centers are looking for power that is not fully tied to the grid, beyond the meter, or distributed generation solutions that supply power directly to an on-site property but are still typically connected to the main utility grid. Fully using grid resources not only takes significant time and effort, but is increasingly met with resistance from utilities and consumers as they express concerns about increasing power prices and impacts on grid resiliency. Elon Musk himself used beyond meter solutions like methane gas turbines and generators in Memphis to build his XAI facility. Although next time, he should be careful not to pollute the environment when he does it. Energy storage will play a material role in beyond the meter solutions. They say the comp package. Then there's the new comp package, though which Elon Musk has committed to stay with Tesla for the long haul, with the board putting aggressive targets in place that could potentially make Mr. Musk a trillionaire. More detail In our note, these targets, if achieved, promise great returns for Tesla shareholders. Embedded in the upcoming shareholder vote is an opportunity for Tesla shareholders to potentially invest in XAI as well. Given Mr. Musk's singular business achievements, we see this commitment to the company and bold targets as mostly a positive. 400 billion in EBITDA, wowza, that's one of Mr. Musk's operational targets over a 10-year period and compares to 15 billion TTM as of Q2 2025. Mr. Musk is who he is, and it's hard to underestimate him. But a lot needs to go right for him to achieve it, and in our opinion, we are at a phase in Tesla's growth cycle where it must go through a period of creative destruction to achieve those goals. Here's why. Humanoids aside, the more success Tesla has in robotaxi, the fewer vehicles they will sell, and we think the company knows this, as they laid out a target of only 20 million cumulative vehicle sales as the operational target. Since Tesla has delivered 8 million vehicles to date, that requires only an additional 12 million units delivered. That's not a lot over 10 years, considering we model 1.67 million in 2025. We applaud management for its willingness to sacrifice growth in its core segment to vault to the next level. Still, it is not a risk-free, and in our opinion, will demand substantial robot sales to succeed. In our note, we lay out how aggressive these targets may be in the context of a nascent market for humanoid robots and cannibalizing nature of the robotaxi market. Conclusion. So this wasn't an easy one. The potential for a downgrade was high as we weighted the tailwinds and headwinds to earnings, not to mention struggling with valuation. However, with some momentum in near-term estimates, potential for more EVs, a continued expansion of the robotaxi ODD, and the possibility of transformative developments in humanoid robots, we are reiterating our buy rating and raising our price target to $490 per share. Canaccord Genuity is basically saying, like, you're almost completely transitioning your business model over the next 10 years. There's risks involved there, which is clear, but they believe in the short term, the stock goes higher, that deliveries get better in the very, near term. And I think overall, this was a very fair argument. Again, I believe the profitability of robotaxi is going to be extensive. Humanoids are going to be massively profitable. So it's kind of like you're trading, the auto business, which is not very profitable, for other businesses longer term, which are going to be much more profitable. So I think it's a good thing. Tesla wrapped up the final week of Q3 2025 in China with its most impressive week of the quarter, logging 19,300 insurance registrations between September 22nd and the 28th. This represented an 11.56% increase from the 17,300 units from the previous week. So, yeah, deliveries have been really good in China. They've been really good in the US. Although we don't get weekly numbers, they are probably pretty comparable to what China is doing. And in the video that comes out at 8 p.m. tonight, we will discuss my final estimates for Tesla's deliveries, which come out on Thursday. We will also be talking about the government shutdown, so stay tuned to the channel for that one. Again, coming out at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. But with this news, Canaccord Genuity's note and price target increase today, I'm surprised Tesla is not trading higher on this kind of news. Ford CEO Jim Farley in a new interview says, quote, the competitive reality is that the Chinese are the 700-pound gorilla in the EV industry. There's no real competition from Tesla, GM, or Ford with what we've seen from China. It is completely dominating the EV landscape globally and more outside of China. China's successful for good reason. It has great innovation at a very low cost, Farley said. There's hundreds of companies, and they're all sponsored by their local governments, so they have huge subsidies. It's new brands. It's BYD and Geely, companies like NIO and Xiaomi, many of which have never been in the car business before, and that's a big advantage for them, he added. They have far superior in-vehicle technology. Huawei and Xiaomi are in every car, Farley said. You get in, you don't have to pair your phone. Automatically, your whole digital life is mirrored in the car. We are in a global competition with China, and it's not just EVs. And if we lose this, we do not have a future forward. The Tesla Europe and Middle East X account today says there are now more than 50,000 Tesla owners in Turkey, less than 3 years after we delivered our first car in the country. In option activity today for Tesla stock from hedge funds and institutions, holy moly, look at this. 306 different trades totaling $539.13 million with a positive order value of 98%. Almost everyone is bullish on Tesla in the options market today from a hedge fund and institutional perspective. So, I mean, that's forward-looking positioning. Someone is expecting Tesla to do very well. It probably has to do with delivery numbers because I think everyone's kind of up in the air on what the government shutdown is going to mean for Tesla, right? And for the markets. Like, nobody really knows how the markets are going to respond to that. I think a lot of people are bearish. They're negative over a potential government shutdown. And a lot of the times you do tend to inverse that, right? Like if everyone was bullish on a government shutdown, it's probably not going to be as good as you think. If everyone's bearish on a government shutdown, it's probably not going to be as bad as you think. And I think we're in the latter camp as a kind of generalization for this market. Now, short interest of free float sitting at 2.93%. $36.43 billion sold short in Tesla currently. 82.2 million shares that are sold short. And the shares out on loan is absolutely collapsing over the past week or two, going from about 21 million shares that were out on loan on September 16th, now at 10.13 million. It's down more than 50% in the last 2 weeks. What does that mean? Well, before you short a stock, you're going to borrow shares of that stock, right? Once you borrow the shares go out on loan. Well, you don't have to short the stock at that point, right? You have the shares in your possession. You can short the stock if you want to, or you can return the shares without shorting them. It does seem like a lot of people are just returning the shares before they ever even shorted them to begin with in the last 2 weeks. That is a very, bullish sign, not just, again, the option activity or what we're seeing on any given day. Like today, 567,000 shares are being covered on. That's bullish, but so is the shares out on loan down 50% in 2 weeks. So is the 98% positive order value. That, to me, this institutional activity is screaming something good could be coming for Tesla. And I think it would have to do with deliveries. Israel's UN envoy says if Hamas rejects Trump's plan, Israel will finish the job and bring hostages home either the easy way or the hard way. Trump says he'll be reducing prices by 100% and in some cases more. And this was in reference to pharma. The U.S. Labor Department clarifies that weekly jobless claims report will not be released in the event of a government shutdown. That goes for the jobs report on Friday as well. And that is where some nervousness could come from in markets. Now, the Senate will vote Tuesday on a House-passed bill to keep the government open, but betting markets on Kalshi are betting about an 80% chance that the government will shut down at midnight tonight. Schumer says, quote, "We're heading into a shutdown." DoorDash has announced that they are launching an autonomous delivery robot. Trump said today to top military officials, "I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but our military, because we're going into Chicago very soon." Trump says, "I told companies to speed up making military equipment." Trump says Putin should have had that war done in a week. Trump says he is so disappointed in Putin for not ending the Ukraine war. Trump says we've taken out 4 Venezuela drug boats. White House to announce Trump RX drug buying website and a deal with Pfizer. Trump said to U.S. military leaders, we're under invasion from within. U.S. Conference Board today says consumers' average 12-month inflation expectations picked up after 3 consecutive months of easing and reached 6.2% in August, up from 5.7% in July, but still below the April peak of 7%. And the headline consumer confidence number for September came in at 94.2. The estimate was 96.0. JOLTS job openings today came in at 7.227 million. The forecast was 7.2 million, and the previous month was 7.18 million. Trump says that we are expanding the Navy by at least 19 ships next year. Trump says Canada's having a hard time, and I suggested it be the 51st state. Trump has said we were threatened by Russia recently, and I sent a nuclear submarine. Trump says we've begun construction on the Golden Dome. Trump says I've committed to spending over $1 trillion on the military in 2026. Fed Collins says not having BLS data over time would be problematic. Trump says we should start thinking about battleships. Fed Collins says on the inflation side, we are not out of the woods. Trump says Hamas will pay in hell if they do not sign the deal. Trump says the submarine is just lurking, and I'm sure we won't have to use it. Trump says our nuclear submarines cannot be detected. Trump says we're 25 years ahead of Russia and China on submarines. Trump says he hopes we will never have to use nuclear. Trump vows to make the military stronger and more powerful. Trump to U.S. military leaders says, I am with you. I have your backs. Trump says we have to get Putin and Zelensky together. And then Trump says he knew Putin and thought this war would be easy. Trump said today, he said, if you don't like my speech, leave the room. Of course, you will lose your rank and future. Fed Collins says that she expects tariffs to feed through, but sees a smaller impact. And Fed Collins says today it may be appropriate to cut rates again if the data supports easing. Trump says I will go after cartels in Venezuela by land. Trump says he will be meeting with military leaders. If he does not like them, then he will fire them on the spot. Senate Republican leader Thune says, I am willing to discuss health care benefits after the government is funded. Trump says we may do a lot of laying off of federal workers. Minority leader Jeffries says Democrats are ready to find a bipartisan path on spending. U.S. Defense Secretary Hegseth says, I'll be making a speech on China soon. Trump says Hamas has 3 to 4 days to respond, but after that, Israel's going to do what they have to do. Hegseth says, should our enemies choose to challenge us, they will be crushed. Hegseth says, there's no time for games, we must be prepared. U.S. House Speaker Johnson says, quote, I'm skeptical about avoiding a shutdown. Let me know your thoughts on all of this down below in the comment section. Hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Tesla stock at the time of recording this video down 1.77%. S&P's down 0.22%. NASDAQ down about 0.2%. Again, it's hard to say what the reaction is going to be if the government does shut down. I think there's a part of people that are used to the, last second deals. And I think there's some people that are kind of holding out hope that we get that. Russell's down 0.79%. So there's a chance that we get that last minute deal. If not, I don't know. We'll talk about what this could mean in the next video out at 8 p.m. tonight, as well as Tesla's delivery numbers. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.